The lighter clicked. Once. Twice. Then flame met fabric. "Stop!" Harper's scream tore through the gymnasium. 2,000 students watched as orange fire crawled across the blood-stained olive jacket. The Ranger tab curled black. The Purple Heart melted. Mason Fitzgerald laughed, holding the burning jacket high like a torch. "Look at her face!" Harper lunged forward, but Bradley Cooper and Nolan Richards grabbed her arms, forcing her to her knees. The jacket, her father's jacket, twisted in flames above her head. 22 veterans a day," Mason announced to the crowd, mock serious. "Let's make it 23. The laughter that followed sounded like breaking glass. Blood dripped from Harper's palms, where her nails cut deep. Her lips moved silently. Counting. Always counting, just like her father taught her. 1, 2, 3, control the rage. 4, 5, 6, don't let it win. But the counting stopped working when she saw Sarah Mitchell, the school janitor, pushing through the crowd. The older woman's face had gone white. Her hands shook. The scar across her left cheek, the one she got saving Harper's father in Kandahar, seemed to pulse. "Please," Sarah whispered. "Not again." That's when Harper stopped counting. 2 weeks earlier. Everything had been different. 2 weeks earlier. Harper Mackenzie had walked into Riverside High School wearing her father's Ranger jacket with pride. 2 weeks earlier. She still believed her father's words, "Violence is always the last answer. Baby girl, always." 2 weeks earlier. Her father was still alive. The funeral had been small. 21 shots fired into the gray November sky. Harper stood at attention, her mother's hand cold in hers, watching them lower an empty casket. There was no body to bury. When a soldier pulls the pin on his own grenade, there rarely is. 4 Purple Hearts, 3 Bronze Stars, 217 confirmed saves. None of it had been enough to save Sergeant First Class James Mackenzie from himself. "He was a hero," the chaplain said. Harper wanted to scream. Heroes don't leave suicide videos. Heroes don't abandon their daughters. Heroes don't give up. But she didn't scream. She took the folded flag, took the jacket they'd recovered from his locker, and took the lifetime of pain that came with both. Monday morning arrived like a punishment. Harper pulled on her father's jacket, ignoring how it still smelled like his cologne mixed with gun oil. The bullet holes had been patched, but she could feel them under her fingers. 5 shots that hadn't killed him in combat. It took his own hand to do what the enemy couldn't. Riverside High School sprawled across 10 acres of Texas privilege. Harper had never seen so many luxury cars in a student parking lot. Her mother's beat-up Honda looked like a mistake between the BMWs and Teslas. "You sure about this?" her mother asked. Harper nodded. New school. New start. No one here would know about her father's breakdown at his last job interview. No one would know about the viral video of him crying in the parking lot. No one would know anything except what she chose to tell them. She was wrong about everything. "Yo, check it out." The voice cut through the morning chatter like a blade. "That's her." Harper turned to see 3 boys approaching. The one in front moved like he owned the air around him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of perfect teeth that cost more than her family's monthly rent. His pressed khakis and polo shirt screamed old money. "Mason Fitzgerald," he said, not offering his hand. "My dad owns half this town." The 2 boys flanking him snickered. Bradley Cooper on the left, yes. That was really his name, filmed everything with his phone. Nolan Richards on the right cracked his knuckles like a bad movie villain. "Harper," she said simply. Mason's eyes locked onto her jacket. His smile turned sharp. Nice jacket. Looks familiar. It was my father's. Was. Mason stepped closer. Past tense. Daddy's not around anymore. Harper's jaw tightened. He passed. Passed? Mason repeated the word like he was tasting it. That's a nice way to put it. Hey, Bradley, doesn't that jacket look like the one from that video? Bradley zoomed his camera in. Holy shit, it totally is. What video? Harper asked, though her stomach already knew. Mason pulled out his phone with theatrical slowness. This one. The video was shaky, filmed through a car window, but Harper recognized the location immediately. The Fitzgerald Industries parking lot. Her father in his dress uniform, standing by the security gate, his hands shaking, his voice breaking. Please, the James Mackenzie on screen begged. I just need a chance. I can work. I can… Sir, I told you to leave. The security guard's voice was firm. Mr. Fitzgerald doesn't hire people in your condition. I'm not drunk. Her father's voice cracked. It's PTSD. I just need… The video cut to him on his knees in the parking lot, sobbing. Someone had added circus music to the background. Harper's hands curled into fists. 2 million views, Mason said proudly. My dad's security team sent it to me. Funniest shit ever. Drunk hobo veteran begging for money. He wasn't drunk. Harper's voice came out steady despite the fire in her chest. Right, Mason laughed. That's why he's crying like a little… He watched 17 of his friends die. Harper cut him off. He pulled their bodies out of burning vehicles. He held them while they bled out calling for their mothers. He wasn't drunk. He was broken. The hallway had gone quiet. Students stopped to watch. Mason's smile widened. Broken. Dead. Same difference. Guess the jacket's mine now. He reached for it. Harper's muscle memory kicked in before her mind could stop it. Her hand snapped up, catching his wrist. The move was textbook thumb on the pressure point. Fingers wrapped for control. One twist, and she could break it. Don't. The word came out low. Dangerous for a second. Mason's mask slipped. She saw fear flicker in his eyes. Then Bradley cleared his throat, still filming, and the mask snapped back. Boys, Mason said calmly. Looks like G.I. Jane wants to play soldier. Harper released his wrist and stepped back. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Violence is the last answer, always the last. Smart choice. Mason rubbed his wrist. See, my family donated $5 million to this school. My name's on the gym, the library. Hell, the principal's salary comes from my dad's pocket. You touch me again, you're gone. Your mom's gone. Every job she applies for in Texas gone. Mason? A new voice interrupted. Leave her alone. Harper turned to see Sarah Mitchell approaching with her janitor's cart. The older woman moved carefully, like someone who'd learned to navigate danger zones. Sarah. Mason's tone dripped false sweetness. Shouldn't you be cleaning toilets? Shouldn't you be in class? Sarah countered. Her eyes met Harper's briefly. Recognition flashed between them, though Harper didn't understand why. Whatever. Mason checked his gold watch. We've got a pep rally to plan anyway. Big Veterans Day celebration coming up. Should be explosive. He walked away laughing. Bradley and Nolan trailing behind like hungry dogs. Sarah waited until they were gone before speaking. You're James Mackenzie's daughter. It wasn't a question. You knew him? Sarah touched her scarred cheek unconsciously. Kandahar, 2013. Your father saved my life. Pulled me out of a burning Humvee after an IED hit. carried me 2 miles to the FOB while taking fire. Harper felt her throat close. He never mentioned a lot of things. Sarah's voice carried weight. That's how he was. Did the job, saved lives, never asked for credit. She paused. I heard about what happened. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Harper turned away. Wait. Sarah grabbed her arm gently. That jacket. You need to be careful wearing it here. What? Sarah glanced around, nervously. The Fitzgeralds. They have a pattern. Veteran families who ask for help, who apply for jobs, who need assistance. Their kids become targets. 6 in the last 2 years. All bullied until they left. I'm not leaving. They all said that. Sarah's voice dropped. The last one, Tommy Chen. His mom was a Marine, single parent. She applied for a loan from Fitzgerald's bank, got denied. Next week, Tommy was in the hospital, officially. He fell down the stairs. Unofficially, Mason pushed him. Sarah nodded. But no one saw anything. No one ever sees anything when it comes to the Fitzgeralds. The bell rang, sharp and demanding. I can handle myself, Harper said. Sarah studied her with eyes that had seen too much. Your father said the same thing. Just be careful. That jacket makes you a target. But it also tells me who you are. If you need anything, I'm usually in the East Wing during lunch. Harper nodded and headed to class, her father's jacket suddenly feeling heavier on her shoulders. First period was American history. Harper found a seat in the back, hoping to blend in. The teacher, Mr. Harrison, was discussing World War II when Mason walked in 20 minutes late. Sorry, Mr. H., Mason said without a trace of actual regret. Principal needed me. Harrison just nodded. Of course he did. Mason's eyes found Harper immediately. He took the seat directly in front of her, turning around with that sharp smile. So, G.I. Jane, did Sarah tell you her sob story, how your daddy saved her? He didn't wait for an answer. Funny thing about heroes, they usually die young and leave everyone else to clean up their mess. Harper focused on her notebook. I did some research during my meeting. Mason continued. James Mackenzie, Ranger Regiment, 4 tours, 100% disability rating for PTSD, applied to 17 jobs in the last year, rejected by all of them. Each word was a carefully placed knife. You know what the rejection letters said: unstable, unreliable, unfit for work environment. But my favorite was the last one, from my father's company. Poses potential threat to workplace safety. Harper's pencil snapped in half. Mason laughed. There it is, that anger. Just like Daddy. Mr. Fitzgerald, Harrison called out half-heartedly. Please face forward. Mason turned around slowly, but Harper could see his shoulders shaking with silent laughter. The rest of the class blurred past. Harper couldn't focus on anything except the broken pencil in her hand and the sound of her father crying in that parking lot video. When the bell rang, she was the first one out the door. The bathroom was empty. Harper locked herself in a stall and finally let herself shake. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, clean rage that wanted to take Mason's perfect teeth and introduce them to the tile floor. Her father had taught her 67 ways to kill with her bare hands. He'd started the lessons when she was 12, after a boy at school had cornered her. Knowledge is different from action, he'd said. Knowing you can defend yourself means you don't have to. But he'd also taught her control, breathing exercises, counting methods, ways to channel the anger into something useful. Harper closed her eyes and counted. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. 4, 5, 6. Exhale. When she opened them, someone had slid a note under the stall door. Meet me in the East Wing. Lunch. Important. S. Lunch couldn't come fast enough. Harper found Sarah in a supply closet that had been converted into a makeshift break room. The walls were covered with photos, military units, soldiers in combat gear, and in the center, a newer addition, a photo of Harper's father in full dress uniform. You put up his picture, Harper said softly. He deserved to be remembered right. Sarah gestured to a folding chair. Sit. We need to talk about Mason. Harper sat, noting how Sarah positioned herself between her and the door. Old habits from a war zone. What about him? Sarah pulled out a laptop, ancient and held together with duct tape. I've been documenting things, keeping track. Look. The screen showed a spreadsheet. Names, dates, incidents, 6 kids over 2 years. All children of veterans. All targeted after their parents had some interaction with the Fitzgerald family. Maria Santos. Her dad lost his legs in Iraq. Applied for a modification loan from Fitzgerald Bank. Denied. 2 days later, Maria's locker was vandalized with photos of amputees. Harper read through the list. Each story was worse than the last. Tommy Chen was the worst, Sarah continued. His mom had exposed some shady practices at a Fitzgerald-owned contractor. Whistleblower stuff. Tommy didn't just fall down those stairs. 3 kids held him while Mason pushed, but on camera, it just looked like boys horsing around. Why haven't you reported this? Sarah laughed bitterly. To who? The principal who gets his paycheck from Fitzgerald. The police chief who goes golfing with Mason's dad. The mayor who owes his election to Fitzgerald campaign funds. So what do? You survive. Sarah closed the laptop. Keep your head down. Don't give them ammunition. And whatever you do, don't be alone with them. I'm not running. I'm not asking you to run. Sarah's hand went to her scar again. I'm asking you to be smart. Your father wouldn't want... My father's dead. The words came out harder than Harper intended. What he wanted doesn't matter anymore. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Sarah spoke. He called me the night before. She wouldn't meet Harper's eyes. Said he was tired. Said he couldn't fight anymore. I told him to hang on. Told him you needed him. He said you'd be better off with the insurance money than a broken father. Harper felt the world tilt. You knew, and you didn't. I called the VA hotline. I called the police. I called everyone. Tears ran down Sarah's scarred face. They said without an immediate threat. They couldn't do anything. By morning, he was gone. They sat in the weight of that truth. Harper's father had planned it. Had said goodbye. Had chosen to leave. The jacket, Sarah said finally. Each bloodstain tells a story. He told me once, Thompson's blood on the left sleeve pulled him out of a sniper's kill zone. Rodriguez on the back carried him 4 miles with a sucking chest wound. Williams on the collar held his arteries closed for 40 minutes until the medics arrived. Harper touched each stain as Sarah named them. Her father had worn other men's blood like medals. He saved everyone but himself. Harper whispered. No, Sarah's voice was firm. He saved you, every job rejection, every breakdown, every moment he wanted to give up but didn't. That was him saving you, until he couldn't anymore. The bell rang, shattering the moment. Mason's planning something, Sarah warned as Harper stood. The Veterans Day rally. I heard him talking to Bradley. Be careful." Harper nodded and left, her father's jacket feeling like armor, and a target all at once. The cafeteria hummed with typical high school energy. Harper found an empty table in the corner, hoping to eat in peace. She should have known better. "There she is," Mason's voice carried over the noise. "Riverside's newest charity case," and he approached with his usual entourage plus a few additions. Girls with perfect hair and cruel smiles, boys with Letterman jackets and empty eyes, the kind of pack that formed around money and power. Harper kept eating her sandwich. Mason grabbed a chair, spun it around, and sat facing her. "So, I've been thinking, that jacket doesn't really suit you. Too big, too bloody, too masculine. It's mine." "Is it, though?" Mason picked up her apple, examined it, took a bite. "See, the way I figure it, your dad owed society. All that PTSD treatment on taxpayer money, all those disability checks, all that resources wasted on someone who was just going to off himself anyway. Don't react. Don't give him what he wants." Harper repeated the mantra in her head. "So really," Mason continued, "that jacket belongs to the people who paid for it. The taxpayers, the job creators, people like my family." He reached across the table. This time, Harper didn't stop him. She let him grab the collar, let him pull it partway off her shoulder. The cafeteria went silent. Everyone watching. That's when they saw her arms. Scars ran from wrist to elbow, thin white lines in neat rows. The kind of scars that told a story no one wanted to read. Mason's eyes widened. His grip loosened. "Go ahead," Harper said quietly. "Take it." Something in her voice made him let go. Maybe it was the absolute absence of fear. Maybe it was the way she looked at him like he was already dead. "Freak," he muttered, but the word lacked conviction. Harper pulled her jacket back on slowly, deliberately. "You want to know the difference between you and me, Mason." He didn't answer. "You hurt people because it makes you feel powerful. I learned to hurt people because they were trying to kill me and my friends. Your father teaches you about tax breaks and trust funds. My father taught me 17 ways to dislocate a shoulder and which arteries bleed out fastest." She stood up, eye level with him even though he remained seated. "So please, try to take my jacket again. Give me a reason." Mason's face cycled through emotions. Anger, fear, calculation. Finally, he forced a laugh. "Boys, I think she just threatened me in front of witnesses." He looked around the silent cafeteria. "You all heard that, right?" No one answered. Bradley held up his phone. "Got it all on video, bro?" "Perfect." Mason stood, brushing imaginary dirt off his pants. "My dad's lawyer loves evidence, especially when it shows violent behavior from unstable individuals. Like father, like daughter, right." He walked away. But Harper caught his parting words to Bradley. "Upload it. Edit it right. Make her look psycho. Time to end this." The cafeteria slowly returned to normal, but Harper noticed the looks. Some sympathetic, some frightened. Most just glad it wasn't them. Sarah appeared at her elbow. "You okay?" "Fine." "That was stupid." "That was necessary." Harper picked up her tray. "He was always going to escalate. At least now I know what's coming." "Do you—" Sarah's voice was urgent. "The rally is in 3 days. Whatever he's planning will happen whether I'm ready or not." Harper met her eyes. "My father spent a year running from fights. Look where it got him. I'm done running." She left Sarah standing there and headed to her next class. Not seeing the tears in the older woman's eyes, or hearing her whispered words, That's what they all say. Right before Mason breaks them. The next 2 days passed in a blur of small harassments. Glue in her locker, her car tires deflated, photos of military coffins taped to her desk. Harper endured it all, counting breaths, controlling the rage that built with each incident. But she also prepared. She studied the school layout, memorizing exits and blind spots. She timed the security guards' rounds, noting that they mysteriously disappeared whenever Mason was involved in something. She watched his patterns, his habits, his weaknesses, and she remembered her father's lessons. Never fight angry, he'd told her. Anger makes you stupid. Fight cold. Fight smart. Fight like you've already won, and you're just going through the motions. The night before the rally, Harper sat in her room surrounded by her father's things. His medals, his photos, his journal from Afghanistan. One entry stood out. Harper asked me today why I fight. Told her, it's not about winning. It's about making sure the people who can't fight don't have to. But what happens when I can't fight anymore? Who protects her then? She closed the journal and put on his jacket. Tomorrow, Mason would make his move. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, she would find out if she was her father's daughter in all the ways that mattered. The jacket still smelled like smoke from her dreams. In them. It was always burning, and she could never put it out. Soon, she would learn that some dreams were prophecies, and some prophecies were warnings that came too late. Veterans Day arrived wrapped in red, white, and blue. Riverside High had transformed overnight. Banners hung from every surface. American flags lined the walkways. And in the center of it all, a massive stage dominated the gymnasium. Harper stood at the entrance, her father's jacket heavy on her shoulders. 2,000 people packed the bleachers. Parents, students, local news crews, even a few veterans in uniform, invited for the celebration. Sarah Mitchell caught her eye from across the gym. The janitor's face was tight with worry. She mouthed one word, run. Harper shook her head. Running time was over. Ladies and gentlemen, Principal Edwards took the microphone. Welcome to Riverside High's annual Veterans Day celebration. Applause thundered through the space. Harper noticed how the principal's hands shook slightly, how his eyes kept darting to where Richard Fitzgerald sat in the VIP section. Before we begin, Edwards continued, I'd like to invite our special speaker, Mr. Richard Fitzgerald, whose generous donations make events like this possible. Mason's father strode to the podium like he owned it, which Harper supposed he did. Tall and sharp in his $1,000 suit, he looked like Mason would in 20 years. Same cruel mouth, same predator eyes. Thank you, Principal Edwards. His voice was smooth as oil. Today we honor those who serve, those who sacrifice, those who protect our way of life. Harper almost laughed. This from a man who wouldn't hire a veteran with PTSD. Service comes in many forms, Fitzgerald continued. Some serve in uniform. Others serve through business, creating jobs, building communities. The Fitzgerald family has always believed in service. Behind Harper, someone snorted. She turned to see an older man in a Marine Corps cap. His eyes met hers, lingered on her jacket, and widened in recognition. That's Jamie Mackenzie's jacket, he whispered. She nodded. I served with him. Heard about... He trailed off. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't be sorry, Harper said. Be angry. On stage, Fitzgerald was wrapping up. So let's celebrate our heroes, both past and present, and remember, True strength comes not from violence, but from prosperity, not from war, but from peace, not from taking lives, but from building them. The crowd applauded. Harper's hands stayed still. And now, Principal Edwards returned to the mic. Let's begin with a special presentation from our student body president, Mason Fitzgerald. Mason bounded onto stage with practiced energy. Bradley and Nolan flanked him, Bradley already filming with his phone. Thank you, Dad. Thanks, everyone. Mason's smile was pure performance. Before we start the official program, I wanted to share something special. See, we have a new student here at Riverside, Harper Mackenzie, daughter of the late Sergeant James Mackenzie. Every head turned. 2,000 eyes found Harper. Harper, why don't you come up here? Mason's voice dripped false kindness. Let's honor your father's service. Harper didn't move. Come on, don't be shy. Mason's smile sharpened. Unless you're embarrassed, I mean. I understand. Not every veteran's story ends in glory. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harper felt Sarah moving closer through the crowd, trying to reach her. You know what? Mason turned to the AV booth. Let's share Sergeant Mackenzie's story with everyone. Roll the video. The giant screen flickered to life. But it wasn't the parking lot video Harper expected. This was something new, something worse. Security footage from inside Fitzgerald Industries. Her father in the lobby, clearly agitated. The PTSD episode in full display. Him dropping to the floor, covering his head, screaming names of dead soldiers. Someone had added a laugh track. Stop it, Harper said, but her voice was lost in the shocked gasps of the crowd. The video jumped to news footage. Local veteran dies in apparent suicide. Then social media posts, comments calling her father weak, pathetic, a coward. 22 veterans a day, Mason announced to the silent gym. That's the statistic. Right, 22 heroes who can't handle regular life. 22 who leave their families behind because they're too broken to fix. Harper started walking toward the stage. Slow, measured, like her father taught her. But here's the thing, Mason continued, not noticing her approach. They're not heroes. Heroes don't quit. Heroes don't beg for jobs. Heroes don't mock the dead. Harper's voice cut through the gym like a blade. She stood at the base of the stage, looking up at Mason. There she is, Mason laughed. Everyone, give Harper a round of applause. It takes guts to show up here wearing Daddy's bloody jacket, like it's some kind of... Finish that sentence. Harper's voice was deadly quiet. Please. Mason's eyes glittered. This was what he wanted. Like it's some kind of badge of honor. When really? It's just a reminder that your dad was too weak to... Harper vaulted onto the stage in one smooth motion. Security moved forward, then stopped when Richard Fitzgerald held up a hand. He wanted to see this play out. You know what each bloodstain on this jacket means? Harper asked the crowd. This one, Staff Sergeant Thompson. My dad pulled him out of a kill zone after an IED took his legs. Held the tourniquets for 40 minutes under fire. She pointed to another. This Corporal Rodriguez. Sucking chest wound. My dad carried him 4 miles through hostile territory. Mason rolled his eyes. Cool story. But where was all that heroism when he was in your father's parking lot? Harper turned to Richard Fitzgerald. Having a PTSD episode triggered by your security guard's aggressive handling, when he apologized and left peacefully, when your lawyers sent cease and desist letters to stop him from applying to other jobs. The crowd stirred. Phones came out. Recording. Richard Fitzgerald stood. Young lady, you're confused. We never— I have the letters. Harper pulled folded papers from her jacket. Signed by your lawyers, threatening legal action if my father contacted any Fitzgerald subsidiaries. Enough. Mason grabbed for the papers. Harper let him take them. Let him tear them up. She had copies at home. You think you're smart? Mason's mask finally slipped. You think you can come into my school, wearing that pathetic jacket, and disrespect my family? I think, Harper said calmly, that you're about to do something stupid. She was right. Mason grabbed her jacket with both hands. This belongs in the trash, just like your dad. The sound of fabric tearing echoed through the silent gym. The sleeve came away in Mason's hands, revealing Harper's scarred arms to everyone. Look at her. Mason held up the torn sleeve. Like father, like daughter, another crazy vet who— Sarah Mitchell's voice rang out, "That's enough!" She pushed through the crowd, but Bradley and Nolan moved to intercept her. Nolan shoved her hard. Sarah stumbled, fell, and suddenly she wasn't in a gymnasium anymore. She was in Kandahar, under fire, screaming. Harper saw it happen, saw Sarah's eyes go blank with terror, saw a 60-year-old woman reduced to a terrified soldier. Something inside Harper broke, or maybe something finally clicked into place. Hey, Mason, she said quietly. Want to see what my father really taught me? Mason turned back to her, laughing. What? How to cry? How to beg? How to— The elbow strike to his throat was so fast, the cameras almost missed it. Mason dropped, gasping. Bradley rushed forward. Harper's knee found his solar plexus with surgical precision. He folded like paper. Nolan, seeing his friends down, tried to run. Harper's hand shot out, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The snap was audible throughout the gym. 48 seconds. That's how long it took. But Harper wasn't done. She dropped to where Mason writhed on the stage, gasping for air. Mounted position. Textbook ground control. My father taught me to count, she said, raising her fist. 1. The first strike was measured. Controlled. 2. Each hit landed with precision. 3. The crowd was screaming now, some calling for help, others frozen in shock. 4. Richard Fitzgerald was yelling for security. 5. But Harper kept counting, kept striking. Not wild, not out of control. Each hit exactly where she meant it to go. 6, 7, 8. Mason's perfect face wasn't perfect anymore. 9, 10, 11. Someone was pulling at her. She didn't stop. 12, 13, 14. Her father's voice in her head, count through the rage. Count until you find control. 15, 16, 17. Mason had stopped moving, stopped fighting back. 18, 19, 20. Almost there, almost at the number that mattered. 21. She raised her fist one more time. The whole gym held its breath. 22. The last strike never landed. Harper stopped her fist an inch from Mason's bloodied face. Then she stood, calm as deep water, and walked to where Sarah lay trembling. The older woman was deep in a PTSD flashback. Harper knelt, using the grounding technique her father had taught her. Sarah, you're safe. You're at Riverside High. It's November 13th. You're safe. She kept repeating it, her voice steady, until Sarah's eyes cleared. Harper, Sarah whispered. What did you do? Harper looked back at the stage. 3 boys unconscious. Blood on the hardwood. 2,000 witnesses. What I had to. The next hour was chaos. Paramedics, police, statements. Harper sat through it all with perfect calm, still wearing her torn jacket. The video was already viral. Not just the fight, but everything. Mason's speech, the mocking video, the torn jacket revealing her scars, and most importantly, what someone's phone had caught from the AV booth Bradley's laptop, still mirroring to the big screen, showing folder after folder of harassment plans, target lists of veteran families, edited videos designed to humiliate. By the time the police tried to confiscate phones, it was too late. 22 strikes was trending. Justice for James. Fitzgerald files. She assaulted my son. Richard Fitzgerald raged at the police chief. I want her arrested. Sir? The chief looked uncomfortable. The videos show your son assaulted her first, tore her clothing. And there's the matter of what was found on the Cooper boy's laptop. I don't care what I do. The Marine veteran Harper had spoken to earlier stepped forward. Behind him, a dozen other veterans. We care, and we'll be watching how this is handled. More veterans were arriving. Word had spread fast. They formed a protective circle around Harper and Sarah. This is kidnapping, Fitzgerald spluttered. This is community, one veteran corrected. Something you wouldn't understand. Harper found herself in Principal Edwards's office, though it felt more like a protection detail than a disciplinary meeting. Veterans filled the room. Sarah sat beside her, holding her hand. The boys will be fine, Edwards said quietly. Concussions. Nolan's wrist is broken. Mason has significant facial trauma, but they'll recover. Good, Harper said. Edwards flinched at her tone. Harper, you understand this is serious. You could be expelled, charged with assault. She was defending herself, Sarah interjected. She counted to 22, Edwards said. That's not self-defense. That's control. A veteran interrupted. You have no idea how much control it took to stop at 22. The door burst open. A woman in a sharp suit entered. Nobody says another word. I'm Harper's attorney. I didn't hire an attorney, Harper said. No, the woman smiled. But about 3,000 veterans just started a crowd fund for your defense. It's already at 50,000. I'm Jennifer Martinez, pro bono counsel for Veterans Legal Aid. The room shifted. Edwards seemed to shrink. Now, Martinez continued, let's discuss the systematic harassment of veteran families at this school. Let's talk about the Fitzgerald influence. Let's examine why security mysteriously vanished during the assault on my client. And let's definitely discuss the conspiracy evidence found on Bradley Cooper's devices. By evening, the story had exploded beyond anyone's control. National news picked it up. Veterans organizations released statements. 22-0 began trending a movement to reduce veteran suicide to 0. Harper sat in her living room, watching the coverage with her mother. Her torn jacket lay on the coffee table between them. He'd be proud, her mother said quietly, and terrified, but mostly proud. I lost control, Harper admitted. He always said, no. Her mother's voice was firm. You had perfect control. You stopped at 22. You helped Sarah. You exposed the truth. Your father would have seen that. The doorbell rang. Harper opened it to find dozens of people on her lawn. Veterans, students, parents, some holding candles, some holding signs. Heroes don't stand alone. 22-0. Justice for all veterans. Sarah Mitchell stood at the front. We're here for you. All of us. Harper felt something break inside her chest. Not anger this time, something softer. I don't understand. Your father saved lives in war, Sarah said. Today. You might have saved lives here. Kids who were suffering in silence, veterans who felt forgotten. You gave us all something. What? Permission to fight back. 3 weeks later. Harper stood in a packed auditorium. Not at Riverside, that chapter was closed, but at the state capitol, speaking to a crowd of lawmakers, veterans, and advocates. My father taught me violence should be the last answer, she said into the microphone. For a year, he lived that truth. He endured rejection, humiliation, and systematic barriers to employment. He chose patience over pride, poverty over conflict, suffering over striking back. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. It killed him. On November 1st, Sergeant First Class James Mackenzie, 4-time Purple Heart recipient, took his own life rather than face another day of being told he wasn't worth hiring. He became number 22. The crowd was silent. I'm not here to glorify what I did. Violence isn't the answer, but neither is silence. Neither is allowing systematic discrimination against those who served. Neither is standing by while 22 veterans a day make the same choice my father did. She held up his jacket, still torn, but now covered in patches. Unit insignias from veterans across the country who'd sent them in solidarity. This jacket tells stories. Thompson's blood he lived. Has 3 kids now. Rodriguez became a paramedic, saves lives every day. Williams teaches high school, coaches football. They got second chances my father never did. Her voice strengthened. Applause started. But Harper raised a hand. Don't clap. Act. Hire veterans. Support their families. Fund mental health programs. And remember, 22 a day isn't a statistic. It's 22 fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters who fought for us and then fought alone until they couldn't anymore. She stepped back from the podium, then returned. She looked directly at the camera. That door is open now. What walks through it is up to you. Think it'll actually change anything? Sarah asked. Harper touched the small tattoo on her wrist. 22 tally marks, with a 23rd crossed out. 22 to 0, she said. One life at a time. The war wasn't over. It never really ended. But for the first time since November 1st, Harper Mackenzie believed it could be won. And somewhere, in whatever comes after. She hoped her father was finally at peace. 22 strikes, 22 seconds of violence, 22 days that changed everything. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes that's too much. But sometimes it's exactly enough.